Hey Fae folk, welcome back to another doll fixing video. Today we're going to be taking a look at and editing designs for some of the Disney limited edition dolls. So if you haven't seen this series videos that I have done before, it's just a series where I take a brand, in this case, as I said, Disney limited edition dolls, and I look at dolls that I just don't really feel like were quite what I wanted. Oftentimes this isn't my absolute least favorite dolls because to me, a lot of my least favorite dolls are just beyond redemption, or at least beyond redemption with the skill set that I have. But there are often dolls that kind of fall in that middle point where I'm like, oh, this is like kind of good, but I wish this was different, or I think this would be better in this color, or if like we cut this doll's hair. And so this series is just a series of videos that I do where I make those little edits. I try my best. It's not always perfect because, again, skill set is not always like 10 out of 10 there, but I just make little edits and little changes to these dolls to adjust them to be a design that I personally find more appealing. Of course, this is just me personally. You might absolutely hate my edits, and that's perfectly fine. Just do be like kind about it if you want to express that in the comments down below. But yeah, I've done this for so many different brands at this point, but I just recently, recently is a relative term. Back in December, I finished doing up a like mini series of videos where I like ranked all of the princess limited edition dolls. And so I was kind of looking at them more. And so I thought it would be fun to then do a fixing video for some of those dolls that I just thought could use a little bit of editing. So that's what we're going to be doing today. Let's just go ahead and jump on into it. Okay, so with these, we're going to go in order from what I think is the least dramatic to the most dramatic transformation. Usually I do my least favorite to my most favorite, but I want to do it this way this time because the first two, especially the first one, there's almost no difference whatsoever. It's just like a very, very small thing that I've tweaked, but it bothered me. So I still wanted to show you. I have plenty that like actually have differences with them, but because I have two that are kind of like almost cop outs, just like a very, very minor change, I figured we would just go, like I said, least like intense transformation to most intense transformation. So we are going to be starting with the 2019 Elsa doll. If you remember when I did my video ranking the Anna and Elsa limited edition dolls, you might remember my complaint with her. I'll give you a second to guess. If anyone isn't familiar, just look at this doll and tell me what you think is wrong. The answer is the fact that her head's a triangle. Like, not even just a little bit. Her head is like a squished triangle. And it's not even just her face. I think I've said this before. I need like a more dramatic color so that I can show you. If it were just that her face was triangular, like that makes sense. Some people have faces that like with their hairline and the shape of their jaw and everything are a little bit more triangular. Like that I think could still be fine. But like her head is also a triangle. Like that was even being generous. Her head is a triangle. And it's also just not accurate to how Elsa's animated too. Like it's not as though this is stylistically just how it is. That's not how she looks in the movie. So the big difference, the big reveal for this one is literally just I made her head more similarly shaped to the shape of her head in the animation. So like I said, I know this is a cop out. I promise it gets better. Okay, I just had to show you what this doll could look like if she had a head that wasn't all squashed down. Like, it's such an unbelievably minor change. I understand I did not have to put this in the video, but I wanted to. So let's move on to something ever so slightly more exciting. Okay, so next up we have the live action Cinderella wedding doll. In a very similar situation. Like I said, the first two are kind of like nothing. I promise it's going to get better. You just got to bear with me. But even this is like, it's good. When I ranked the Cinderella dolls, I actually even like did this very, very hastily in that video because I think her head is just unbelievably big for the scale of her body. Sometimes having like the big head, tiny body can work for dolls when they're more stylized or like less realistic, especially. I think that that can look perfectly fine. I mean, Monster High's got a decently like large head to body ratio in Gen 1. Not as much, quite as much in Gen 3, but like stuff like Rainbow High, I don't know if that'll be in frame behind me, but like they have enormous heads compared to their body, but because they're stylized, obviously like some people find it off-putting, that's fine, like you can have whatever opinion, but it doesn't look quite as jarring because it's very clearly stylized, where if you have a doll that is supposed to look like a person, like it's supposed to be as realistic as possible, and then you put this out, it's kind of like, why is her head so enormous? So the size is like the biggest change. I'll just show you what I did here. The shrink is crazy. Sorry. I, I I hadn't even done before. Like the back and forth. That's actually fucking crazy. Oh my god. Okay, we'll stay zoomed in for a second because there are a few other changes I made. I did slightly alter the shape of her jaw just because it is like extremely square, it feels like, on this original version of the doll. And I actually looked up the actress. I have promptly forgotten her name. I don't know why I want to say Elle Fanning because I know it's not Elle Fanning. But when I was doing this, I did look up the actress to like make sure I wasn't adjusting the stall in a way that made it untrue to like how she looked. And I just softened it up just a little bit because I don't think that her like jaw is quite as square as that made it out to be. And I also softened the eyes. I feel like the very, very, very dark, heavy eye makeup doesn't really mesh with the rest of the dress, or honestly like the look that the actress had in the movie. Like it just doesn't really feel like that's what it should be. It's not anything crazy and it's hard to see because it's at such a tiny scale now, but I tried to soften it up just a bit. And then the last thing I did was I gave her a little bit of a smile because she looks like she's pissed to be at this wedding. Like she is not happy in the original doll. So I tried to like upturn the corners of her lips just slightly, just so she looked like she actually wanted to be getting married. So that's what it looks like when you pull it all out. And I'm just like, wow, you give her more human proportions and suddenly she doesn't look so ridiculous. So again, this one's mostly the head change and like the size. It is quite minor, but I still had to share it with you. Okay, so now we are looking at the 2010s Belle, and I do have this one and then three others that are like proper dramatic changes. So, big complaint with this doll is the shape of the skirt for sure. Like, okay, I just want to make sure it's on the right layer. This A-line shape, first of all, is not what she looks like in the movie, but also I hate how this middle portion goes out so far. Like, the tulle pokes out so far from the actual line of like the main line of the dress that it just looks silly and goofy. And honestly, despite the extravagance of the rest of the doll's design, very playline. Like the details don't look playline. Please don't get me wrong. Like all of the stuff on the bodice, that's crazy. I love it. It's so pretty. But just the shape of the skirt and the way that it had been executed feels very, very playline to me. So that was the big change. So this is my version of the doll. We did just like kind of liquefy the dress and make it a little bit wider. It's still not necessarily as big as like I think Belle maybe deserves, but at least it looks like a ball gown shape and at least the tulle is like in line with the rest of the dress instead of being just ridiculously far out. I just think that looks instantaneously so much better. I did also add some beading detail to her hair. It's kind of hard to see, but I wanted like some to be encircling her bun and then also have these pieces dangling down that I thought could like theoretically connect to the bun, right? You can't see it because of the angle that her hair's at, but I just felt like her hair looked a little bit plain. And like, I understand that it's like kind of plain in the movie, but this is a limited edition doll that's like a little bit extra. And so the beading detail that's like on her bust, I thought would be cute if that kind of tied into her hair. And then you might also notice that there is a decently significant difference with her face. So refreshing you, here's what the face originally looked like. And my big gripe was this eye. The way that the eyelash is so over large that it literally looks like it meets her eyebrow, it doesn't look good. And I understand that part of that is the angle from the stock photo, but I personally just think it's too much. Like, I love me a good long dramatic lash. I'm not 100% opposed to rooted lashes. I just think that there's a way to do it that doesn't look ridiculous, and this doll didn't execute that. So I altered her eyelash so you could see her brow and her lash be separate. I think I made her eyeliner like a little bit more intense just because why not? I like eyeliner. And then I did also give her a red lip, which again, I don't even think she has that in the movie. Like, I understand I'm kind of going off script here, but I personally just think it looks really good, especially when you look at the whole doll, because it matches her rose better. And I just feel like it really fits Belle's design. Like, I just think that it looks nice. So this one's more serious. We have some actual like edits going on here as opposed to just let me shrink her head down. And they're still really small edits. Ultimately, what I did was reshape her dress, new lip color, cut some eyelashes off. And I feel, oh, and the hair. But I feel like she looks so much better. It's really fun to see how tiny little tweaks can change a doll's appearance so drastically. Alrighty, next up we have the 2020 limited edition Rapunzel doll, and this one is a doll that I feel personally attacked by as a Rapunzel lover. She is my favorite Disney princess. But why is she in pink? I'm so sorry. She is supposed to be the purple girly. I personally prefer Aurora in blue, but like in the Disney princess canon, she's pink. Okay, she gets the pink dress. So why does Rapunzel have a pink dress here? This is ridiculous. I also think this was her anniversary doll, which makes it like worse to me. She's supposed to be in purple. Her dress in the actual movie is shades of purple. And it does bother me that they put her in pink. So I'm sure you can guess what the biggest change here is going to be. And that's that I made her purple. I gave her the correct coloration. And it looks so cute. Like, it's such a good color on her. I did leave some of the pink just because, like, I understand with the limited edition dolls, there is some variance. Like, there's some element of creativity there. It's not always just trying to replicate the movie dress one to one. So I left, like, some pink flowers. The outer portion, like the outer skirt of her dress here, I didn't change the color there. So it could be kind of a more pinky tone. But the deeper pinks, they look infinitely better to me as purple. And then again, in the face, I felt like we needed to change some things. I actually wasn't offended by the like corner eyelash here, because again, I do think that you can do a fun dramatic lash and have it be cute, but I didn't really like the other clump because they're all just like the same length and I feel like they should be tapered. And also like they're really long. Again, they're hitting that eyebrow. And at that point, it just gets to a point where it's like, okay, that might be too long because there's not like a lot of differential going on there. For me personally, it's not what I like. And also, once again, like she's not smiling, like a little bit. She's got a little bit of a smile, but Rapunzel is like when she's not fearful. Like when she is in moments of joy, she's such an expressive princess, such a happy princess. And so it bothers me that they gave her this sculpt where it's like, that was terrible. But it's like barely a smile. It's barely a smile, and I don't approve of that. So I gave her a little bit more of a smile. Again, like I upturned her lips a little bit. I also made the color a little bit more saturated just because like I don't have anything against a neutral lip, but I did feel like with the dress and everything, it kind of worked to give her a slightly more like, why can't I think of the word saturated? Pink? I don't know, whatever. Y'all know what I mean. I did also ever so slightly change the shape of her eyes, where I just kind of like pushed them up a little bit so it looked like her cheeks were like pushing her eyes up, like how when you smile, your eyes kind of like get smaller if you're smiling really big because your cheeks push up into your eye. Because again, I wanted her to look like she was happy and like she was having a good time. And then you can see here where I edited those eyelashes. I did leave the one really long one because again, it's fine, but the others I kind of shortened down so there was some separation with the eyebrow there. And then also they're a little bit more tapered. So they just feel, to me, I mean, obviously those are very unnatural eyelashes, but they feel a little bit more natural. And then the last thing that I did was I gave her some volume up top. I understand that realistically speaking, gravity is a thing. And with this amount of hair, Rapunzel's hair would be like flat to her head because the weight would be pulling it down. But it looks better if you give her more volume. To me, I just think it looks cuter. So we'll do a little back and forth here. Those are my edits. I feel like this slaps. Again, it might not be the craziest thing ever. She looks so cute this way though. Next up, we are taking a look at the Ultimate Princess Celebration Jasmine doll, who I do think is a good doll to begin with. Like, there's a lot of things that I love about this design, and this is where my kind of, not a disclaimer, but like what I mentioned at the beginning of the video comes in, where I'm not picking the dolls that I think are the ugliest necessarily. I'm just like picking dolls that inspire me that I'm like, oh, this would be even better if you tweaked it this way, because I do think she's really pretty. However, my biggest complaint with her was that there's not a lot of contrast in this. Like, technically speaking, there are two colors of red. One is slightly more orange and one is slightly cooler toned red. Like, it's not outright purple, but it's like edging that way just a hint. But it's not enough contrast to really allow the different elements of this design to shine, in my opinion. I just didn't feel like it all kind of blurs together at a certain point, and I didn't love that. So that's the main thing that we changed here. So That's what I did. I made the like bust portion of her top significantly darker along with this most under layer of her skirt, and I just feel like it adds some much needed contrast. I feel like first of all the dark red looks fabulous on her. Just it just looks nice. But also I do think it really helps let the other elements pop and lets it like have a little bit more visual interest where it's not just one blob of all the same color. Yes, it's still all red, so she still gets to have her kind of monochromatic look. I'm not like making it purple all of a sudden, which obviously, like, if you wanted to, that's fine. I'm just saying, like, I wanted to let the essence of the doll shine through, and she was supposed to be monochromatic red. I just feel like this is a better way to do it because there's a little bit more contrast and it makes the different pieces stand out more, and therefore, to me, it makes them more interesting. Then to zoom in on her head, I did make this gem in the middle. That was so random to me. I don't dislike the purple or blue or like tone of it. I just don't, it's literally nowhere else in the outfit. Like, hello. And maybe it's supposed to be a callback to what she mostly wears because she obviously like is mostly depicted in a like teal blue or purple sort of outfit, like that kind of color range, whereas the red is kind of a more special color for Jasmine to get to have. So maybe it was supposed to be a reference, but I'm going to keep it real. I don't think it looks good when it's the only thing there. So instead, I kind of inverted it from the other two. Like these two are a very light gold with a red stone. So I made the middle one stand out by being like a red metal with a white stone. So that way it is still different. Like there's some visual interest in the hair. It's not just three stones all the same, but it's not just like this random spot of blue. And then once again, I messed with her makeup because, okay, here's the thing, is that some Disney lines definitely are trying to be more faithful to the movie design, and some of them are not. And this is probably one of the lines that is like least faithful to the actual designs in the movies and in the shows and whatever. And so I felt like I had a little bit more license to do something a little bit more interesting with her makeup. So this is the original. And then for her makeup for my edit, I did give her more eyeliner. I gave her like a little inner corner moment because first of all, I just love it. I think it's really pretty and really cute. I also think that the super dramatic makeup really works with this design. And I just feel like Jasmine would rock an inner corner. Okay. Like I can see her doing this. I see it. I see it for her intensely. And then the last thing that I did was she already does have a very slight two-tone lip, but I did enhance that. I know that it's like more common for people who have deeper skin tones to naturally have a two-tone lip where their top lip tends to be a little bit darker and their bottom lip tends to be a little bit lighter. Of course, that's not always true because every person is different, but it is like frequently true amongst people who are not as pale as myself. And I also know that it's something that in certain circles, because like I feel like I haven't seen it as much because I maybe just like get lucky and I like get the positive parts of the internet in this case. So I don't really see it being like a negative thing, but I do know from like hearing people talk about it who have lips that are two-tone lips that it is something that some people have been bullied for, or some people consider really ugly, and it's like something that they want to change about themselves. And I think that sucks. I think it's stupid in any capacity to make fun of someone for a trait that they inherit that they can't help, especially if that trait tends to be something that is like based on their race. That's messed up. So I wanted to give her a two-tone lip that's like a little bit more intense. First of all, because I wanted it to be like, oh yeah, like her lips might naturally have some sort of two-tone to them. Obviously, probably not this color, but like that might be naturally like how her lips would look, is to have two tones, but also because I genuinely think it's so pretty. Like I just think that's such a pretty look. And so I wanted to like let her celebrate that feature a little bit because I think it looks really cute. So that's my my little edit for Jasmine here. I stand by this one. I think this one's super solid. And honestly, this might be my favorite edit of the bunch, but the next one's more dramatic. The last one's more dramatic. So because of the order that we're going in, Jasmine is in second to last today. I almost said second place. Y'all know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, let's move on. So for our last doll of the day, we are taking a look at the 2010 Tiana limited edition doll. And if you remember the video I did on this, you'll know what my biggest issue with her is too. And it's these godforsaken petals down here, because why does the rest of her dress make sense? And why is the rest of her dress very obviously fabric, but like made to look like it's some sort of greenery? And then you used literal cheap ass fake flower petals for the underlayer of her skirt. Like, I will say I do think there's a way to use those materials nicely and to have them look really cool and fun and very natural. But if you're going to do it, you have to do it for the whole outfit, or at least like more than one part of the outfit, so it doesn't just look so out there. But when the rest of her doll is so obviously fabric, and then you want to try to convince me that these petals are like real flower petals, it just looks stupid. Frankly, I think it looks extremely cheap and not good. So that was the biggest change. So this one's like iffy. You just you got to use your imagination, because again, skill level not always perfect. Also, when I was trying to make these edits, I had like messed up my hands. If you don't know, I don't know what's wrong with my hands. Doctors don't know what's wrong with my hands. It's super fun. But my hands are frequently quite weak, and I get a lot of pain in them if I type a lot, or honestly if I do a lot of anything. Like I'm very limited in what I can do with my hands. And so when I was trying to make these edits, my hands were kind of flaring up and were not in a good spot. So bear with me, okay? I know that these don't look perfect, but what I was trying to do was like the outline here. I was trying to mimic, wrong layer. I was doing so good this video, but the kind of trim that's on these green like leaves that comes with the doll as she is, I was trying to kind of mimic that along the revised petals, and I just made them more fabric. That's just the whole idea, is hey, let's make this fabric so it matches the rest of the dress, so it doesn't look absolutely ridiculous. So I understand the edit might not be perfect, but just like using your imagination. It also looks a lot fuller, I feel like, when you use quote unquote fabric panels. Like it just doesn't look so raggedy almost. That sounds so mean, but like it does kind of look raggedy. And then like with the others, I also did make some changes to her face here. So I gave her more of a smile. We'll just say that, because I don't know what it is with Disney and like so many of their dolls looking so sad. Like they have neutral facial expressions, but I feel like there's a really nice way to do a neutral facial expression that still it can be read as happy. But for some reason, the way that they do their dolls, I feel like it tends to read as sad. Maybe that's just me, but it doesn't really work. And again, because this is Tiana specifically, like obviously she has like some attitude, some sass. She can experience negative emotions. We all can. But I also feel like she's very much a like she's going to find the positive through it. Like she's going to smile through it. I mean, she works so hard in her movie and she has a smile on her face. You know, she's exhausted. She's working from the moment that she wakes up to the moment she goes to bed to try to reach her goals. But like she still is able to find joy and have moments of happiness. And so for her to not get like a smile, especially because this is depicting like the kind of like conclusion of her story arc where her dreams are coming true, that's messed up to me. She deserves to smile. I don't know why I ranted about that for so long. But yeah, so I gave her a little bit more of a smile, but I also changed her eyebrows because I think them being like so high up and then also so like intensely arched, like that's the angle they're at. And yeah, there is like the tail at the end, so it kind of makes it less intense, but that doesn't scream happy to me, or like, I don't know. It's just, it's kind of like a weird angle for them to be at. So I did change the eyebrows. I'll show you in a second. But you might have noticed when I was flipping back and forth that I also moved her eye, because she's in this stock photo supposed to be looking at the frog. That makes sense. I get it. And granted, it could just be the stock photo, but these are her lines of sight. Her eyes are facing different directions. Like, I don't know. And I do want to say, I understand that there are people who naturally have eyes like that, who just like have an eye that faces a little bit different of a direction than their other eye. And I'm not trying to be like, ew, you're so ugly if that is the case. Like that's not what I'm trying to do at all. I just feel like Tiana, first of all, is not a character who like has that, so it's not necessarily accurate. But I also think there is a huge difference between depicting someone who might have eyes that face in slightly different directions intentionally and in a way that is supposed to be like, hey, this person is beautiful. It doesn't matter that their eyes are facing in different directions. Does that make sense? Versus like what is very clearly an accident. I hope you get what I'm saying, because I'm not at all trying to be like, if you have like a lazy eye, you're disgusting. That's not it. I'm saying there is a huge difference between like intentionally depicting a positive character who happens to have a lazy eye and printing your doll incorrectly to where she accidentally is looking in two different directions. So I moved her eye and I gave her a smile and I moved her eyebrows so that she doesn't look so like weirdly angry. So that's my Tiana edit. Even though like a lot of this you have to do the work with your mind, because again, I understand that petals that I added in are maybe not spectacular quality wise, I feel like this is such a huge improvement. And like she automatically looks just so much less ridiculous and so much more put together and less cheap. I really love how this one turned out. But yes, guys, that is going to be it for me fixing the Disney limited edition dolls. This was really fun and also really interesting. I feel like the last couple of these fixing videos that I've done, this one and then the last one that I did that was pretty recent was the Not Enough Surprise one. I don't know if it's just because like I did have a long period of time where I didn't make any of these fixing videos or if it just so happens to be the brands. But some of my older ones had much more like really intense differences. So I don't know if it's just like the style of my editing has changed or if like different brands I feel like require different tweaks. But it's just kind of interesting to look at the series as a whole and be like, oh, like that's interesting how this had this trend of like, oh, you changed so much with like the Monster High dolls, for example, but like so little with some of the Disney dolls. I don't know. It's just kind of fascinating. Y'all probably don't care or maybe not even have noticed, but it's just fascinating to me. But yeah, those are my edits for the Disney limited edition dolls. Definitely, you know, definitely let me know which is your favorite, your least favorite, what you think of all of them, all of that jazz. And as I said in the last video, there aren't many brands that I can think of that like I haven't done these type of videos for, but if you can think of one, definitely feel free to drop it in the comments down below. And if I am inspired enough, we might make a video about it. But that's going to be it for me for today, guys. I hope you have a lovely rest of your day or your night, or whatever it might be, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye, guys.